The 20-year-old National Guard's woman was Sarah Beckstrom. The 24-year-old National Guard soldier was Andrew Wolf. So he is in critical condition as of right now, and the woman has died. Lockenwall had been vetted by the intelligence community for his work with the CIA before coming to the United States, but he was granted asylum this year, and that would have warranted another screening process. The Trump administration has said the standards were not up to par and have been blaming the Biden administration. A report from the Justice Department in June showed the FBI and other U.S. agencies had done a good job flagging threats during the Afghanistan withdrawal. But this DHS report in 2022 stated there were data inaccuracies for some of these evacuees, and that CPB, Customs and Border Patrol, admitted or paroled evacuees who were not fully vetted to enter the United States. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt spoke about this during the White House press briefing that just wrapped up seconds ago. Let's go ahead and listen in.
I'll begin this week with some scheduling announcements for President Trump's very busy week ahead. Tomorrow, President Trump will host his 9th cabinet meeting of the year alongside his incredible cabinet, who continue to deliver for the American people at a record pace. Later in the afternoon tomorrow.
That's Karoline Leavitt talking about the president's schedule. I'm going to move you ahead just a little bit further in the timeline where we can listen in as she spoke a little bit about the National Guard soldiers, the two who were shot in Washington, D.C.
Tragedy that took place in our nation's capital that last week. A foreign terrorist that the Biden administration failed to properly vet ambushed 2 members of the West Virginia National Guard who were honorably serving here to keep the residents and visitors of Washington, D.C. safe. U.S. Air Force Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf was severely wounded in the attack and remains hospitalized while he continues to fight for his life. Tragically, U.S. Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom died of her wounds. She was just 20 years old. President Trump and the entire White House are praying for Andrew's full recovery at the request of his parents and their personal phone call with the president over the weekend. And we are keeping Sarah's family and friends in our prayers during this unimaginably difficult time. Sarah and Andrew represent the very best of America. 2 young patriots who were willing to put on the uniform and risk their lives in defense of their fellow Americans. Both of them truly embody the profound words spoken by Jesus Christ in the gospel. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. Sarah and Andrew are heroes, and we will never forget their sacrifice. That means ensuring the monster responsible for this atrocity is prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law and faces the most severe punishment possible. It also means reckoning with why this atrocity was allowed to happen in the first place, so that it may never occur again. Here are the facts. The terrorist who gunned down American soldiers blocks away from the White House in an ambush was an Afghan national who was flown into our country by Joe Biden's administration in September 2021 in the chaotic wake of their botched withdrawal from Afghanistan, one of the most embarrassing moments in the history of our great country. Joe Biden's historic failure in Afghanistan continues to haunt this country and our men and women in uniform. Not only did this surrender lead to a suicide bombing that killed 13 American heroes in Kabul, but now National Guard troops were shot on U.S. soil by the same kind of enemy. We continue to live with the deadly consequences of Joe Biden's horrific leadership. Nearly 100,000 Afghans were recklessly released into the United States with little to no vetting. There was no regard for the disorder and violence that this would unleash on American communities and American culture. Reportedly, thousands of these strangers and
That's White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt briefing on the attacks on the 2 National Guards members. We're going to continue to keep you updated on this story. Meanwhile, President Trump said Sunday that he has invited the families of these 2 National Guards members to the White House. And one of the things that the president spoke on Air Force One about was their service. Both Beckstrom and Wolf were deployed with the West Virginia National Guard to Washington, D.C., as the president has worked to deploy the National Guard to D.C. to help keep the city safe. Let's listen in on what the president had to say aboard Air Force One.
I have spoken to both families. Well, I mean, I can give you an update. They're devastated. Does that make sense to you?
Of course.
They're devastated.
Can you give us an update on Andrew? How he's doing?
Well, as you know, the one is no longer with us, and Andrew is fighting for his life. And his parents are unbelievably great people, highly religious people, and they're praying, and they want everybody to pray for Andrew, and he has a chance to make it, but he is, I mean, his mother and father, they were so unbelievable. They were so positive. From West Virginia, great state. I spoke with Sarah's parents, too, and the only thing I can say, they were devastated. I've already suggested it. I said, when you're ready, because that's a tough thing, come to the White House. We're going to honor Sarah. And likewise with Andrew, recover or not, we're going to honor him.
I do have one more.
Well, that was President Trump speaking aboard Air Force One. Now, keep in mind, according to the owner of a funeral home in Webster Springs, where Beckstrom is from, the owner of Dot and Reed Funeral Home says no funeral arrangements have been made for her at this time, but we'll continue to keep you updated as we learn any new information. And right now, of course, on the right, we know that that National Guardsman is fighting for his life, so we'll keep you updated as the situation unfolds.